wala kayo sa generation namin. Ganito kami noon. Tapos, ganyan kayo ngayon? We are free thinkers. Saan ka man generation ka bilang, merong masasabi tungkol sa generation mo. Kaya, inalam namin ang mga ito sa kahabaan ng Boracay.
You can have whatever you like.
Okay, we are moving on to the next topic, which is about generation wars. Nako, interesting to. Boomers versus millennials versus Gen Zs and may Gen X pa. Pag-uusapan natin yan because somehow we're not getting along and let's find out why. Hello, good afternoon po. Pwede po ba kayong... hello. Opo. Bakit kaya nagkakaroon ng mga conflict itong mga iba't ibang generation na to?
Siguro sa age, tsaka upbringing ng family, kikita natin yon.
Mas ano sila ngayon, mas advanced. Tayo mas conservative tayo ng mga panahon namin eh.
Ano yung mga naiwan kaya na mga values na tingin nyo medyo nakakalimutan na ng mga kabataan?
Yung respect talaga, especially sa magulang.
Mababaw yung foundation nila eh. Konting hirap lang, bumibigay kagad sila.
Lagi silang, yung rights namin dapat ganito, dapat entitled kami sa ganito. Pero yung responsibility mo bilang kabataan, bilang ano.
Why are we not getting along with other generations?
Maraming bagay. Siguro yung technology before, iba rin today. So iba rin yung pag-adapt din natin sa mga bagay-bagay.
Sino ang pinaka nakakabangayan ng mga millennial? Ang boomer ba o ang Gen Z?
Feeling ko Gen Z. Mas sutil yung Gen Z kasi.
Oh.
Hindi naman inabadi siguro dahil mas open-minded lang sila ngayon. Unlike sa ibang previous generations.
Oo. What do you think are the big differences between these generations?
Yung age nga, meron kanya-kanyang age gap tayo. So definitely mas stricter yung mga boomers. They don't match now kasi nag-innovate na tayo when it comes to technology and everything. Pati yung mind o yung pag-isip ng mga bata ngayon, talagang iba na yun.
Tingin mo ba, ano yung pinakamalaking nagiging conflict ng mga generations?
Perception po when it comes into the norms na ginagawa daily. Hindi nila kasi naiintindihan on how Generation Z struggles on the new normal na ginagalawan natin. Boundary po nung communication between sa mga parents po natin na hindi po nakakaintindi masyado nung kailangan natin kakaharapin po. At doon po sa katotohanan na kailangan nilang harapin na we are evolving, we are into 21st century, na kailangan natin yung punan yung pangangailangan po ng mga bata.
Yung depression, minsan nadidepress sila dahil masyado mo hinipitan. Tapos nai-stress sila kasi daldal ka ng daldal. Dapat yung pagsasabihan mo siya, yung a-advise mo siya ng maayos, maliwanag.
I think sometimes there's like miscommunication happening because sometimes we have slangs that they don't understand, or sometimes it's just that they have a different mindset as us, which is why there's arguments and stuff like that happening.
I think the misunderstanding between the new generation right now and the older generation, they have a different kind of advocacy. The older right now is they are like learning how to improve.
Or to keep up with the time.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah.
What a great day, lovers! I'm Pia Wurtzbach, and this episode is kind of emotional because it's our last, but we'll make it fun. Dahil ang pag-uusapan natin for our season ender ay generational war. Ano ba ang generational war? In simplest terms, it's a conflict of one generation to another regarding their values and perspectives on different issues, resulting in numerous clash points. Iba ang tingin ng boomers sa parental discipline versus millennial, o kaya ang pagtingin sa sexual health ng mga Gen X versus Gen Z, at marami pang iba. Kaya masayang pag-usapan ito dahil bakit nga ba may hindi pagkakaintindihan ang iba't ibang generation?
I'm Cynthia Gaitan and I represent the boomer.
I'm Isaac Reyes and I represent the Generation Z. I'm Carl Samsterson and I represent the Millennials.
Gusto ko munang simulan sa impression nyo sa isa't isa.
Gen X, they're quite strict in their manners. They're quite serious in their life. Yung Gen Z, they're up to technologies. They are free to do anything they want. I think Gen Z is very open to all sorts of situations. The millennials are career-oriented. So they are the young, we call them the yuppies, the young professionals.
I see Gen X as the cool titos and titas in their family. I respect the generation of boomers kasi they're old. Meron silang wisdom. Pero I think they're a product of their the past generations, which I think medyo problematic na yung perspectives nila about certain things are outdated. So I think they're a product of that, and I do not blame them for it. I think millennials are leaning towards change, and I think that's great.
Gen X are those, especially with my friend group ng mga Gen X. Then, parang sila yung in the middle, parang middle child. I think the generation of boomers, they're very traditional. Their perspective in life is very traditional as well. Yung value system, yung mores, yung lahat ng mga nuances when it comes to their ideals of what society should be is very, hindi man very, it's obsolete. Gen Z naman, they're very outgoing, they're out there. Yung kanilang perspective when it comes to social things, very liberal.
In terms of romance naman, Miss Cynthia, what was it like during your time?
So they can't go to dances, parties. If ever there is going to be a guy who's going to court, they cannot just entertain that guy. And when it comes to love, it's taken very seriously. And we have this stick to one. If you have a boyfriend, you stick to one boyfriend only.
For the rest of your life?
Yes.
Ay. Okay. Yes, I respect that. Ano yun, usually ba yung childhood sweetheart mo na lang? Or kapitbahay nyo?
Maybe sa school.
Usually kung ano yung circle mo when you were growing up, usually you find your partner there.
Wow. But means of communication is through pen, writing.
Writing lang.
And then there's also a telephone, so long distance, or you can call. That's how it is during the time.
Ang hirap. Na-imagine ko pa lang. Pero parang ang liit ng mundo. When I try to imagine it. Ikaw ba, Isaac, like, can you put yourself in that world for a minute and imagine a world with no internet?
First thought, oh my god, I think I would survive. Simply because, I grew up in the digital age.
Miss Cynthia, like, what's your impression of the dating scene now and how easy it is to find love?
Yes, it's very different.
Do you like it?
No.
Why? No, it's okay. That's your truth. That's your being honest. Bakit po?
I would prefer courting face-to-face because I've heard a lot of stories that they know each other by texting and then they met and they do things which they would regret later on.
Nakarinig si Miss Cynthia ng mga horror stories. Cards. Half of our childhood didn't have cell phones yet. Tapos, papasok pa lang yung internet. We're kind of in between. Because I'm also a millennial. Can you imagine yourself in that world?
I think yes, simply because we were enjoying our childhood.
Yeah.
We were running out dun sa streets na, naglalaro ng patintero or whatnot, us at least, because we eased into the internet phase.
Yeah.
And so we were trying to explore the dating pool. It was there, it was available. When we started using the internet, often view ourselves as millennials as the start of the global citizens. We are given that capacity to connect to different people from different parts of the world, to share our own culture and stories, and even romance. Tayo yung nag-start ng parang gano'n. Openness to the idea na hindi lang dito sa pool natin pwede tayong makipag-date, hindi lang sa classmates, hindi lang sa kapitbahay, or referral from parents.
Referral from parents.
But people that you actually don't know and you don't have a background of.
Ikaw, Isaac, do you feel like, is courtship still a thing?
Yes and no. Siguro it really depends on the person. I think in a way, may courtships pa rin, but
Iba na. Oo. Hindi na yung harana. Hindi na mga ganon. Or kaya yung niligawan mo muna yung magulang.
Pwede ko nabutan yun.
Hindi nyo ba nabutan? Okay, good for you, Miss Cynthia. What kind of Filipino tradition or culture naman ang tingin nyo, pinakagusto nyo sa mga bagong generation, Miss Cynthia?
They just enjoy life and they have more fun. They express themselves more freely, unlike in our generation. Maybe we are restricted because we have to obey our parents when it comes to discipline.
Is there anything from the boomer generation that you like?
Give that a thought.
You need a minute?
I actually do. Can we skip?
Okay, wow.
I'll get back to you.
Balikan kita. Carls, do you agree that mas disciplined yung boomer generation kaysa sa generation ngayon? Or is it just a matter of the kind of discipline?
I think it's both. People from the boomer generation tend to be very traditional in terms of the discipline side of things, like pamamalo and all those stuff. Yung disparity of how we view discipline now and before is very different.
Yeah.
Kasi now, hindi ka pwedeng mamalo, hindi ka pwedeng, you cannot physically abuse someone. That's how you qualify that. So it was more of like, we were able to endure those things, but we're still okay. What is it about Gen Zs that you appreciate is the fact that they're able to explore more things because of social media and because of how interconnected they are through the internet rather. They are able to forge into like different fields, for example, through online courses that we did not have as millennials.
What about with boomers naman? Is there any like tradition that you appreciate from their time?
Discipline, of course. Definitely discipline. Now, it's viewed as, it's frowned upon. But I think it molded me to the person that I am. I think it's a shared experience with my friends as well. Na parang, because of these experiences nung bata kami, how we were disciplined, focus namin on things, nasasta kami dun sa aming goals.
I think I can say the same thing. So growing up, they instilled that kind of discipline that the boomers have given them. So it's one of the good things that I love about them, and also their music. I love their music.
Actually, where are we at now in the world? How open are we talking about our sexual health and even sexually transmitted diseases?
The world is becoming more open. With the help of programs like this, it really helps because it opens up discussions on taboo topics. People are becoming more open when it comes to talking about sexually transmitted diseases or even sex in general.
Do you agree that the older generation, like the Gen X and the boomers, were totally closed off when it comes to this topic?
Don't think they're totally closed off. However, are a product of older generation. Naintindihan ko na those topics were taboo to them. I don't blame them for it kasi the society back then were sobrang conservative. So, I guess yes and no.
Okay. Carls, ikaw naman.
Oh no, it wasn't something we talk about at home. Because I grew up with very conservative parents, it wasn't a topic of discussion. It was a topic of discussion in school. Yung parang nagawa ng kaibigan mo, try mo nga. Walang STI, walang concept na gano'n before. Yung how to do sex, how to perform sex, yun yung concept ng namin before. And since pa-start yung internet, people were like looking it up on Google. Nung time na yun. And I think people were getting their ideas from the internet and from friends na nag-share ng kanilang
Kwento, experiences. I'll just go back quickly to Isaac. Do they teach it now in school?
Oh yes, they do. I really appreciate that kasi back in 8th grade, they started teaching sex ed programs. And I think it's really important to discuss it to the youth kasi in reality, we start exploring young.
I grew up in a Catholic school, so walang concept ng condom use, walang concept. The concept was about abstinence. It was about not doing sex, not having sex. And then you end up after a few years graduating from high school na naging pregnant na yung klase mo. Because we weren't taught about these things in school. So siguro I appreciate yung sinabi ni Isaac that it's now incorporated in the school system. And kailangan natin i-amplify that messaging na, we don't judge people ano yung sexual practices nila. And we help them choose kung ano yung gusto nilang gawin sa buhay nila, and just empower them to know that there are things that they can do to protect themselves with STIs, for example, or getting pregnant.
Miss Cynthia, may sex ed ba noon?
No.
How would you learn?
During our time, it's not being taught at home, not being taught in school, even with friends.
Even with friends? Walang curiosity na kahit... okay.
But it's not being taught anywhere. It's really a taboo. But same thing with Carl. I like Generation Z now because being brought to the youth in school, and maybe your parents also talk about it. At least we are able to educate the youth.
Yeah. During your time, Miss Cynthia, how would you then know what to do? How would you know?
Discover it.
Really? Okay. Kapaan, ganon. Kapaan. Paano ba to? Okay, let's talk about mental health naman. Miss Cynthia, when you were younger, do you remember a time where you were feeling down and you couldn't pinpoint or explain how you were feeling kasi discussions about mental health, depression, anxiety, suicide wasn't open yet?
Yes, that's true. It's not open. And I don't know if I can identify if I was going through depression or anxiety. I cannot really zero in if I had experienced that. When it comes to mental health, like in a family, if there is somebody who is like crazy, that is our description before.
Yeah.
So if there is somebody that is crazy in the family would hide it from people. It's not like now that they seek help. Here in Bacolod, there was no psychiatrist at the time.
Yeah.
Instead of bringing the person to a psychiatrist, they will bring the person, it's either to the priest, they will bring the person to spiritual doctor.
Yung parang lalagyan ka ng oil sa tiyan. Do you feel like the new generation is more sensitive or more resilient?
Both. They're more sensitive, at the same time resilient, because since the people is open to that idea, or they're open to talking about somebody who is seeking help, they are not all anymore labeled as crazy, but they are people who cry out for their help.
And there is help.
And there is help that
Available.
Yes.
Meron pa ba, just quickly, meron pa ba, Miss Cynthia, who avail of the services na age nyo? Na mga boomers din? Or is it mostly just the young generation? Meron.
Because of depression, because of anxiety. Meron. It's because of what is happening now.
Yeah.
They're already open to that sort of help.
What was it like if you were going through a phase or a time, a dark place in your life? Could you identify it as like, depression, this is anxiety? Was it clear then?
It wasn't clear. During our time as millennials, doon nag-start yung parang emo era. Remember that? Parang may specific sila na look, and then they have specific music as well. Pero yung mental health kasi during our time, it revolves around the idea na kulang ka sa faith, kulang ka sa prayers. Kasi hindi ka nagdarasal, kasi hindi ka nagsisimba. The concept of mental health before is like that.
Okay, Isaac, nowadays, it's so easy to get a diagnosis of whatever mental struggle you're going through, and it's also so easy to get help. Would you say that the Gen X or the millennials paved way for that?
Absolutely. I think they did pave the way kasi without them, we wouldn't be here. Yung resiliency nila nag-pay off in a way kasi we're here, we're getting help. I feel really bad for the boomers and the Gen X kasi I think resiliency should be a tool to cope.
Yeah.
And don't always have to be strong.
Something that's glorified na nowadays, no?
Yeah, as a Filipino strand, like, we are told to be resilient. I think it's a double-edged sword. It should be a tool to cope, not our default setting.
A lot of boomers out there say that Gen Zs are too fragile or too sensitive. Well, how do you feel about that?
Siguro hindi lang nila naiintindihan or hindi sila nakakasabay na there are things na may mga words na for it na back in the day, wala. So, siguro kaya nila nasasabi yun kasi ngayon hindi nila naiintindihan.
Yeah. Actually, I agree with that. Sometimes I do catch it in casual conversations. Some terminologies that are unacceptable nowadays and then you just have to kind of correct. Let me jump into something a bit more sensitive, which is soji. Wala pang konsepto ng soji noon.
Wala pa. If there were members of LGBT, they're not openly accepted by people. So that is why nowadays a lot of the members of the LGBT are coming out. Unlike before, there's a term closet queen. They're hiding their identity, and I really feel they need help because they keep it to themselves, even to their parents.
It must have been such a really difficult time to live in a world where you can't be yourself and you can't be open, and if you do, even your whole own family will...
In fact, they will disown you.
Yeah. Nagbabago na yung mundo. The new generation are trying to explain things, but then, hindi, ito pa rin kami, ito yung paniniwala namin, we will not budge. There are only two genders, ganon. Why? Why are there people like that?
Maybe because of religion, that there are only two genders, male and female. Even now, if you are a Catholic,
meron pa rin,
meron pa rin ganun.
oo. Meron pa rin.
So, they stick to tradition, maybe.
Carls, why do you think it's so hard to change their minds and to make them open and more understanding when the whole world is starting to do that? Is it pride na lang ba to?
I think it's pride and more. It's not just about the issue of soji that they're repulsed about. I mean, they don't listen to it. Talk about mental health or sexual health. Ang lahat ng mga bago ngayon, they are, at least most of them are not willing to talk about it. They're scared because masyadong wide yung concept. Yung iba walang time for that. I would rather do something else than sit with you and talk about soji. In my generation, for example, yung concept ng pagiging bakla or tomboy or part of the LGBTQIA+ community, you have to prove something. You have to be better at something because you're not like normal. There's no way for you to do it and do it better than the rest of the population. That's why most of, at least the people that I know, perform well in school and even after school. When they're trying to forge their way to their professional lives, they perform better because they have something to prove.
Isaac, nowadays, but do you still feel that? Kasi millennials feel na we have to prove that even though I'm gay, I can do amazing things. Do you feel that kind of pressure?
Fortunately, I don't anymore. Actually, I feel bad for older generations that feel that way. It's sad na queer people have to work twice as hard just to prove that they mean something. And I think that's sad because why can cis people or heterosexual people do mediocre and still get the praise for it? The queer people cannot. I think it's high time that people accept queer people as they can be mediocre as well. And I think yung pagiging normal lang. Yung normal standards for queer people is twice as high for if you will compare it to heads. So, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, for sure. Across everything. Cynthia, what is something, a trait, a behavior, a tradition that you wish the newer generation would do more of or would have more of?
One is respect for older people, respect their wisdom.
Okay. Actually, alam mo nung nag-interview ako sa Boracay, yan din ang sinabi nilang lahat. Yes.
They will have more faith. People nowadays, or especially the youth, the young, they can freely express themselves. But it seems that they lack. I do not know. I'm not sure.
No, it's okay. Yeah, it's fine.
They lack in the spiritual growth.
What's something that you wish the boomers would understand more about your generation?
I do not wish for them to change because they grew up in a very different time. I'll give them that. But through more understanding and patience for the younger generation, for millennials naman, I think we get along pretty well.
Yeah. We're very hip, you know, like...
I could say the same for millennials na more understanding and patience.
Okay.
Babaliktad ko din yung question, I think. Ano yung isang bagay na gusto ko sa boomers? It's the fact that they're very present. Because during their time, walang internet, they're very present.
Yeah.
Alam mo yun? I appreciate that, especially when I'm around, or surrounded by boomers, na parang nag-uusap kami, walang cellphone. I get to really be with them and spend time with them. That's what I appreciate for the boomers. Kasi andun sila palagi. Siguro the thing lang that I don't like with the boomers is yung parang grabe yung pushback when it comes to social issues. And again, sabi nga ni Isaac, we cannot change that. We can work around it.
Yeah.
We cannot change that. And I respect that. We just hope na parang in turn, ganun din yung how they feel about us.
Yeah.
Parang kasi ganito yung nakalaka namin eh. We don't have to fight about things that you think is right and I think is right. And for Gen Zs, I think just learn to embrace the idea of the differences in our generation. We might have difficulty understanding some concepts, and as certified ticos and ticas of the generation now, or at least leaning towards that, we want to understand you more. With the openness ngayon in the internet, we are getting there. And the same siguro yung how I feel with the boomers na parang hindi natin nag-gets. May mga concepts sila, may mga terms na parang ano ba to? Just try to have the time to explain it to us, and you appreciate that, you know? You appreciate those things.
They have a different language.
Alam niyo po ba yung ibig sabihin, Miss Cynthia, ng woke?
Woke.
Okay. So, hindi nga talaga nila alam. Miss Cynthia, alam niyo ba ibig sabihin ng slay?
Slay. Hindi slay na, as in slay.
But well, thank you so much though. This was a great discussion. No one was harmed in the making of this episode. I know that there's a lot of differences between generations, but if we look closely at the experiences of people, they are just responding to what the society dictates and what society has presented before them. We may have differences, but we are still alike in many, many ways. It's just that their response and resources at that time are what works for them in those issues and circumstances. At kailangan lang natin ng kaunting pasensya at pag-unawa dahil wala namang henerasyon na gustong mapasama ang kinabukasan ng susunod pa. Thank you for sticking with us until this last episode of Holding Space Season 3, Shaping a Safer Society with the Visayas. And finally, I would like to personally thank everyone who has been part of this remarkable season. Our journey goes from the non-stop scouting of guests, even until the day of the shoot, Zoom meetings, delayed flights, mga nawalang bagahe, mga magiging bouncer, nadumog sa beach, yan, kalsada sa shoot, sa school, nilabanan talaga namin ng araw at init at mga ML breakfast. So a lot has happened. I believe this has been the most memorable advocacy shoot that I've had. Kaya maraming salamat, my Love Yourself family, at sa lahat ng mga nakasama at nakasalumuhan namin. I'm your host, Pia Wurtzbach, na nagsasabing holding space won't stop until we have shaped a better society for all. See you again soon!